The Gerry Anderson Podcast with Jamie Anderson, Richard James and Chris Dale.
Ronnie was born in Toronto, Canada. His numerous television credits began in 1964 with A Touch of Don Juan, narrated by Douglas Fairbanks Jr. However, he's probably best known as Zippy from ITV's Rainbow and later Rainbow Days. But fear not, Anta fans. He's also managed to get his hands on or into some puppets from the Gerry Anderson universe too. Let's meet the puppet master himself, Ronnie Le Drew.
Thank you.
Ronnie, welcome to the Gerry Anderson Podcast.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here.
Now, you are one of those people, if you don't mind me saying, who inspires a certain look in people's eyes when they hear what you do. Is it something you've grown used to over the years?
I have, yes. I think I know what you're referring to. It's a character called Zippy from Rainbow. And yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? I mean, you do a character for a job. I mean, I did it for 6 weeks initially, thinking, oh, well, this is great, you know. And all of a sudden, over the years, well, it is over 20 years. It was a long time. People have grown up with it. It's been part of their childhood.
Yes.
I mean, it's generations. So
he's quite a character. Do you feel he's taken over somewhat, or do you keep him in check?
Well, I keep him in check. But, I mean, originally, I didn't do the voice of Zippy. It was the very first Zippy voice was a wonderful man called Peter Hawkins.
Oh, yes.
Who did loads of wonderful things Daleks
That's
and
right.
things like that, and Bill and Ben and all those wonderful characters. Anyway, he did the original voice, and then in about the second series, another actor, Roy Skelton, who again was quite well known for voicing Daleks and things like that on Doctor Who, he took over Zippy because there was a lady puppeteer originally. So obviously Zippy was a male character, so they needed to have a voice artist.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a bit unusual because puppeteers normally supply their own voices. It's all part of the trade.
Yeah.
But anyway, this was fine, and Roy was with the programme for, oh my goodness, years and years, a bit like me. And so I learned to sort of lip sync to his voice. Yeah. And then sadly he passed away a few years ago, and very kindly Fremantle said, Ronnie, would you like to take over doing the voice? The reason being is that I'd done some fates, opening fates and things with the singers and Jeffrey and people like that. And they found it difficult. I mean, Roy coming along as a voice artist, trying to sort of hide him out the way, get him mic'd up, all those difficult sort of things. It's difficult when it's a lot of public sort of thing. Yeah. So they said, look, Ron, you do Zippy's voice and work Zippy, and that will be much easier. Yeah. So I did my Zippy voice. And that's how I started doing it. And Roy was quite happy with me doing those because, in fact, he had a young family at the time. He was living in Brighton. Right. And, travelling over to wherever this fate might be.
Yes, something of an inconvenience.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So he eventually, sadly, when he passed, they asked me to take over, and I've been doing it.
Do you mind? You've had such a long and varied career. I mean, tens of credits on IMDb, the Muppets and Labyrinth, and just all sorts of things. Do you mind that you always end up talking about Zippy?
No, not really. I mean, it's the longest, I suppose, character that I've been associated with, so therefore, he's going to be asked about, really. Yeah. And, he's a naughty character. He's a know-all. Yeah. He's, I think, a character that a lot of people wish they could have done or been when they were kids. Absolutely. And he gets away with murder apart from when he gets zipped.
That's right. So over the next couple of weeks, we'll be talking to you about your long and illustrious career.
Thank you.
And also about your sort of skirting around the worlds of Gerry Anderson. Yeah. Now, I know that you've been hands-on with quite a few Gerry Anderson characters that our viewers and listeners may not even know about.
Right. Well, I can tell you quickly a little bit of story. We did a Children in Need 2 years ago. Yeah. And I was asked to operate, because I'm sort of well known for doing string puppets, marionettes, to operate, I think it was Virgil. I hope I'm right. I haven't looked at it for ages. Right. And I did him doing a little bit. And this was I don't know who constructed him, but obviously it was lovely, gorgeous. And it was fun to do that. I also did Zelda, not the voice, but did the puppet. Yeah. And that was quite fun.
Yes.
And also, I think I'm trying to remember on that one program, I did so many different puppets on that program, But I think I did a Captain Scarlet or a Captain Blue, I think.
Right, okay.
Which was and they were quite different characters to
interesting.
work. So
yes, well,
that was all fun.
We'll talk about those much later.
Oh, lovely.
So,
Good.
as we're straying into the worlds of Gerry Anderson, Ronnie, I'm afraid we're going to test you on your Gerry Anderson knowledge.
Right,
now,
okay.
Don't worry, it's just a bit of fun.
Thank you.
But we're going to show you some very, very quick clips from the opening titles of every one of Gerry's series.
Right.
And let's see how many of these you recognise. So shout them out when you see one that you know.
Right.
Ready?
Yep.
Off we go.
Oh, I know this is Twizzle, of course.
Well done.
Oh, I think this is Torchy,
You're doing
isn't it?
well, yes, great.
I didn't think... Oh, I loved it. Four Feather Falls.
That's the one.
Oh, and Supercar.
Well
Wonderful.
done, Ronnie, yes.
Oh, and Fireball XL5.
Beautiful.
Loved it. Yeah. Oh, yes, indeed. Stingray.
Yeah.
Oh, well, who would not know? Thunderbirds.
Yeah, that's a pass, I think, isn't it? We'll give you that one.
Oh, lovely, Captain Scarlet.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Oh, now that, I did know that. Joe 90.
Well done.
Oh, yes. Now, I did know this one, but it's gone.
It's gone. Next.
Oh, yeah, these are ones that have passed my childhood. Oh, sorry, I
right.
did know that one as well. Remember that dog? Oh, dear, no, they're all going far. Oh, we're Terrorhawks.
Well done, yes, good.
Oh, yes, I love that.
Ah.
It was a stop frame show.
It was.
And it was fabulous. It's gone. Oh, but I do know it.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, and I love this as well. Lovely animated
Yes, beautifully
series. Saw that years ago. Loved it.
There we go. And that's your lot.
Oh,
well done.
Phew.
Very well done. Yes, I mean, you were groping for quite a few there.
Yes.
Dick Spanner.
Dick Spanner
You
is the
knew
one.
Dick
I loved
Spanner,
it. Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
And the one almost at the end there, Lavender Castle.
Lavender
mentioned as
Castle,
well,
which
you
I
liked.
did see and loved.
Yeah, interesting.
Yeah.
You didn't do too badly at all. You got 10 there.
Ooh.
10 out of, I think there are 18. So
is
that's
there?
over halfway. So look.
Thank you very much indeed. Where does that go?
Well, now, as we're starting our first block of the new year, you will get the honour of being the first little Thunderbird to go on the edge of our table here.
Oh, I
so
see.
Over the last few months, we've been building up quite a few of our previous guests, and we thought we'd start again for the new year.
Right.
So in due course,
Okay.
you will be blue tacked
Stuck
to
on
the top
there.
of the table.
Lovely.
So well done. So interesting there. So you knew a lot of the earlier stuff, which
Yeah.
we might
Yeah.
expect. So is that your earliest memories of Gerry Anderson or watching TV?
It is really. I literally started with Twizzle, and I always remember, because I don't know what age I was, but quite young.
Yes.
And I watched this series, and I was always fascinated how the legs grew.
Yes.
And I was desperate to meet the puppeteer who did it, because I would have thought, I'm probably it was just a simple thing of fixing the legs to the ground and then pulling up, and the legs grew, and then the arms grew. I thought, well,
That's
they just
right.
let a string go and it just flopped through. They probably did that for the legs. I have no idea.
Yeah.
But that started me thinking, puppets. Yeah, there's quite a lot involved in puppets. Even though I know that was one. Well, it was the first, wasn't it?
It was indeed.
Sort of series, and
Yes, that's right.
I've read quite a lot of history about all that.
Yes,
and, it
I'm
was
sure.
quite difficult to do because. Being the first, you've got the puppeteers who are doing their thing, and then it's very simple backgrounds, and
Yeah.
there was shadows and all sorts of stuff, that sort of got in the way.
Well,
of
we've got a
all
little
that.
scene for you to watch here
Oh,
from
right.
Twizzle. So
lovely.
take a look at this, and maybe we'll have a
Okay.
chat about it afterwards.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Help. Oh yeah. Well, that was obviously a meant shadow there.
Yes,
on the
that's
back,
right.
Yeah.
This scene takes place in nighttime. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
I'm up. Oh, the pavement's an awfully long way down.
Of course it isn't.
It's going to be very difficult.
Just twizzle your arms and legs, and you'll be able to reach the ground.
Twizzle, twizzle.
Oh, here we go.
Yes, look at that.
He was as tall as an antlers. Goodbye, Twizzle. We won't forget you.
Slight dolly waggling there, but anyway, there
Yeah.
we go.
Ah, okay.
After
Whee! Down he goes.
Goodbye. Goodbye.
Ah.
Sweet. my goodness, I haven't seen a clip of
There you
Twizzle
are.
for
Yes.
I don't know how many years.
The only surviving episode, I think.
Is
Twizzle
it?
and Footso there, yes.
Oh, right. Yes, the cat, wasn't it?
That's
Yeah.
right, yeah. So you mentioned a slight, one of the puppets.
Oh, it was as a Jack-in-a-Box one.
Yes.
He was, and I mean, it's just a puppeteer's
Yes.
saying that, if they wobble around a bit, it looks like dolly waggling. It's a terrible expression,
It's
isn't
really
it?
good. I like it. That's nice. But also that gives us a sense there, and I think we can all sense it as we watch it, that's quite primitive work there.
Yes, indeed it is. But the lady who did the puppetry there, Joy Laurie, she was famous for doing Mr. Trimble, was it, or something? Oh
Right.
gosh, I hope I've got the right character. It was on BBC Whirligig, and it was this amazing little character. And fun enough, Peter Hawkins voiced it. This was way back in the 50s,
Yeah.
and this is fairly sort of very
Yes.
early 60s, isn't it?
50s, in fact.
50s,
yes, that's
in
right,
fact.
yes.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Indeed.
So anyway, no, it was. Yeah, they were. It was interesting. I'm going to do something in April this year, which is sort of linked to what we're talking about. Is that Joy Laurie was born in Essex, and in Colchester, there's going to be a sort of, I don't know what it will be, I think a sort of Gerry Anderson themed event in Colchester Castle. There's a guy called Graham Farley who is putting it all together, and he's asked me to come along and talk about some of the stuff I've done with the Thunderbirds characters, actually Brains, and I did other, well, I've told you about Virgil. But anyway, they're also sort of trying to give, I suppose, the life of Joy Laurie, because she lived in Tiptree, which is not, in Essex somewhere. And they want to sort of show a bit of her life. So I'm quite interested to see what goes on there. But that's the link with that too.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So let's go back, if we may, to the beginning.
Oh, wow.
Little Ronnie Le Drew.
Little Ronnie Le Drew.
Born in Toronto, Canada, is that right?
Yes. Oh, you've done your homework. That's marvellous. Yes,
So-
indeed.
And then what brought you to the UK, and at what age?
Well, I was 3 on the boat. It was the boat sailing across from, anyway.
Yeah.
And I was brought over with my sister and my mum and dad. Well, my dad decided he would like to have an English degree. He was a teacher. He'd got a Canadian degree. We're all born in Canada, so that was the thing.
I see.
Anyway, so we just left all the stuff in Toronto and came over and landed in Southampton.
Yeah.
I think my mother had an aunt who lived in Poole in Dorset. We stayed there for a bit, and then we moved on to London, Primrose Hill, quite posh, but it was just a room, I think, in a huge house.
Yeah.
So it was pretty, we weren't very rich. I think we spent all the money, or my parents had, getting over to England.
Yes,
and
quite right.
And he was still studying. He managed to get an English degree eventually. But anyway, we moved from there and we went to a flat in Clapham South. This is all very interesting, I'm sure. I don't know.
It is.
But then you're very kind, Richard. Then we went to, where did we go? Stockwell, South London. And we had lived in a council flat for there. And that was the beginnings of my puppetry career. It's a long way round to doing it. But what happened was we used to have long school holidays in the summer, 6 weeks. And what do? Well, I've been watching lots of Gerry Anderson and other puppet stuff, Sooty and Sweep, and various things that were on at the time. And I thought, I could do a bit of puppetry.
So were you even then, as you were watching, what age were you then?
I'm trying to think. I was probably, when I was watching, if it was the late, I would be about 8 or 9 watching.
So certainly old enough to realise that these were puppets.
Definitely. Oh, yes. And I was really keen to have a go.
Yeah.
Because I just thought it was quite fun to do something, put your hand into something and work something. I didn't think I was attractive enough to be a major actor, you see. So I thought, even at that age...
Never stopped me.
No, it hasn't. No, anyway, but what it was that I think I could do stuff and I could entertain the kids around the flats, because there were loads of kids around who were, waiting to go on holiday if they were going or not. And we, rather than playing on the bomb sites, because it was bomb sites around in the time when I was there. Anyway, we put on shows. So I had a few Pelham puppets. Do you remember the Pelham puppets?
I do remember Pelham puppets.
Right.
Quite synonymous with a lot of Gerry Anderson
Absolutely.
puppets,
There's loads
actually.
of characters that
That's
he
right.
he got made from that.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I had about 3 of those. I had an upturned table from, oh my goodness, this is so terrible when I think back. And I had a wind-up gramophone that somebody gave me with 78 speed records. I think Tracy Fields, and I had Victor Sylvester. I mean, I wanted proper, wonderful music, but there you are. I didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
I played those and I danced the puppets around.
Yeah.
And the kids sat, I was on the first floor, the kids sat on the stairs going up to the second floor, raked auditorium. I didn't know that at the time.
Perfect.
And so I'm doing this show. And they seem to like it.
Yeah.
And I seem to get a bit of a buzz from doing these sort of shows. I mean, I sort of cringe at the thought of how terrible they probably were. But anyway, there you go.
Yeah.
And then from there, I discovered Pollock's Toy Theatres, the Victorian cut-out figures.
Right.
And they're wonderful. And I love that because it was a sense of theatre in a way that you could have the scenes and you could have lighting if you could get it going. I mean, I did manage to get. I mean, nowadays you can get these lovely tiny little bulbs and things, and everything is a bit. But in my day, it was battery operated, great big old sort of torch bulbs with sweet paper wrappers over to give the colours for the lights and all
Lovely.
that.
Yeah.
But by this time, I would be 10, 11, 12, 13, that sort of age. So I was getting a bit older and a bit more wiser about how to do all these
But obviously,
things.
there's something of a performance gene in you. Did that come from anyone else in the family that you know
not
of?
really. Not that I know of. No, I think it was just me. I just decided I wanted to do it. I wasn't sporty. You can tell I'm not a sporty sort of chap. And I just loved anything. I used to watch, as I say, the wonderful shows on the telly, but I used to like Sunday matinees with my mother. I think she was probably a bit of an influence because she loved all the Ginger Rogers, Fred Astaire movies, all those sort of musical numbers.
Right.
And so I'd sit and watch those and think, oh, this is show bears. I love all this.
Yeah.
And so I'd watch those and so I think they influenced me a lot, actually.
Yeah.
And then while I was at school, I did do some puppet bits at school, but I wasn't very happy at school. I wasn't academic at all, and I wanted to get out there as quick as possible. But after doing the Pollock's theatre shows and bits in the school, I then discovered there was a puppet guild, and it's called the British Puppet and Model Theatre Guild. I'm now president. I mean, isn't it extraordinary?
Right.
But anyway,
There you are,
a little 14-year-old went along there, and I met all these amazing puppeteers who were iconic in a sense that puppeteers or the puppetry community would think, oh my goodness, these are amazing people. So there was people like Wanslaw, who wrote a lot of puppetry books in the sort of, I mean, way back in fact, he founded the Puppet Guild in 1925. So, I mean, he was getting old. He was quite an old chap. And he was doing his Marionettes.
Yes.
There was Wardo Lanchester, who did amazing puppets and had a shop at the time that I sort of knew him in Stratford upon Avon. And that was great and wonderful figures, beautiful carved figures, trying to think of other people. In fact, that's when I met John Blundell, who was this wonderful sculptor and puppeteer. And basically, he said to me, well, it's great being here at the Guild, but come to another organisation called the Educational Puppetry Association. Well, I was so excited to meet this guy, John Blundell, who by that time, I knew that he'd been, made some stuff for Fireball XL5. He'd also been, and then Stingray and Thunderbirds later. But anyway, all that stuff. And I thought, this is, and of course, Gerry Anderson, who, as a kid, you're going, oh, wow, I've met somebody who's involved in it. And he said, yes, let's go to EPA. And he said it rather quickly. I thought, I'm going to AP Films. How marvellous. And, I'd read the credits enough times, and I knew it was in Slough. But anyway, he said, I'll meet you at Holborn Station. I thought,
that's odd.
Exactly. Anyway, we went along, and it was this basement down just off Bloomsbury, which was wonderful, creative little environment, but full of glove puppets and a wonderful couple who educated teachers for sort of using puppets for education, all that sort of stuff. But it sounds rather sort of, stuffy, but it wasn't all. It's great fun, and the teachers were wonderful. And so that was that. But anyway, it was a huge influence because eventually I went, I sort of well, he told me all about, well, he gave me my first cut, and I've still got it somewhere, black and white picture of the Fireball XL5 characters, so Steve Zodiac and Zuni and all those, because he designed Zuni and everything. Anyway, so I was sort of thinking, so I took that to school and said, look, I know that man who made those puppets. So, I was quite happy about that.
This is not a familiar story, but many of our guests often pinpoint a person or a couple of people who have been sort of champions for them in their young life and set them on a particular path.
Yeah.
And I think that's important, as a youngster, to see older people actually making their way in that industry gives you a sense of hope that you could do it too, perhaps.
Absolutely, and John was that person, I think, at that time. I then did meet other puppeteers, but John was the one who thought, and he took me to theatre. I mean, bless him, he was terribly kind. Yeah. I mean, I visited, saw lots of dance. I saw, all sorts of variety stuff, even musical stuff, which was still sort of happening around the sort of late 60s and all that. Yeah. And there were influences that really helped me develop my feeling for puppets and what sort of characters they could be and all that sort of stuff.
Okay, so that's interesting. So you say develop your feeling towards puppets, because it is a very special relationship and a mysterious relationship, I think, to many of us, between the puppeteer and their puppet. Absolutely. How would you explain that then? Can you explain it?
Well, I suppose I can. It's something I know. For me, when I first started, I hated what I looked like. I didn't think I was any good. But I could be any character. I could be a tiny character like a mouse if I put it on. If it was a glove puppet or something, I could be a giant in the same show, and nobody would see me because I'd be behind a booth or whatever. And that was sort of the thing that I quite liked. Nowadays, of course, things have changed. A lot of puppeteers are visible doing their puppets. I do quite a lot of stuff like that now. I had a booth show initially, all started at the EPA there with John and Violet and Panto. These are lovely people that were around at the Educational Puppetry Association. Yeah. And I sort of I thought, lovely, I can be any characters, I say, but I'm behind the booth, nobody sees me, and I could pretend, I could develop voices and character stuff. And so that's what I did. And then after a while, I gave up lugging this stage around, because puppeteers don't, by their very nature, don't make millions and millions of pounds. Yeah. It's a bit like a nurse. You're dedicated to the art, and you just get your wage, and occasionally you get a film job. You think, oh, thank you.
That's handy.
Maybe going on holiday next year, but that sort of thing. Yeah. But so I gave up the stage, but I had what I call my bag show, and so I just had a bag of puppets, and I sat down a bit like I'm doing now, and I'd produce a puppet on my hand, and we'd chat, and I chat to the audience. I loved the communication with the audience, always have done, and they don't seem to look at me; they look at the puppet, because I'm focusing on that. That's
right, and that is, I suppose, your ideal then. That we're not looking at you; we're looking at the puppet. And
absolutely,
it's a deflection almost, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I suppose
and yet we admire your skill, so you can have it both ways in a way.
That's right. That's right. I think the very first sort of puppetry. A professional puppetry I did was at the Little Angel Theatre in Islington, North London, and I was John Wright, who was the founder-director's second apprentice, and that was way back in 1963, 64, that sort of time. And that gave me a tremendous feeling about theatre and how things are put together, sound, lighting, the whole thing. And his marionettes were absolutely beautiful, wonderfully carved figures. And I don't know, I think that gave me, a feeling of drama and all the rest of it. I've already been doing little bits, as I've said before, but this was in a professional way. And he never wanted to play down to children. It's very similar to Gerry in a way. I don't think any of his stuff, he wanted to do stuff that was... Anyway, that's right. So it was a great experience, and I'm still involved in the Little Angel Theatre now. I mean, this is 60 years later. Right.
So. Now, you also mentioned there you would travel with a bag of... as you did today, and you brought some characters along for us to enjoy today, Ronnie.
Would you like to see?
Of
yes,
course
on my lap I have
Who do we have here?
Well, I also, I'm jumping ahead now, but I worked on a film, Labyrinth, which was Jim Henson's, and I had to audition for that. So I hope you can all see. I'll play to my own camera. Here we go. Hi there, and I did this as my audition piece. It was, wasn't it? So what did you do? Well, I did this. I went... you cleaned. Yeah, I've got to do my back. Oh, right. Oh, right. Fine. Lovely.
I wish I could
is
do
that
that.
done? Yeah, I wish I could do
Yes,
that too.
exactly.
And so this one is a copy of the one that I had made. I'm not a puppet maker, believe it or not. A lot of puppeteers make their own figures.
Yes.
I don't. I love performing and doing all the sort of production side, music and
Now,
occasional writing.
So, looking from the outside at this very real living creature who's joined us in the room, what are you doing technically then?
Well, I can take the puppet off and I'll show you. It's basically, it's all about your wrist and your fingers.
Yeah.
And so when I, oh, hi there.
Yeah.
And oh my God, this is me in the nude. So that's sort of, and it's just that really. And it's about wrist and finger movement, really.
And as you say, you're giving that your full attention, which means we give it our full attention.
Absolutely, that's exactly the thing. I would never sort of say, hello, I'm doing a puppet show. Where do we look? Where did the audience look? So it's all about focusing on that.
Yeah.
And then, and if it focuses on me, I obviously react and stuff like that. So that's the...
And in a
That's
sense,
the
that
secret.
just your hand there became a puppet.
Yeah.
So in a sense, anything can be a puppet. Is that true to
Absolutely,
say?
Richard. Yeah, absolutely right. Yes, my nose. No.
Yeah. That's interesting. And who else have you brought? Some very familiar faces I can see.
I'll start off
There
with this
he
one.
is,
Can you see him? I'll do him down here so you can see him in front of me. Hello, I am Little Zippy. I was in Rumpelstiltskin. Yes, I was, Richard. And that was an episode, but I was also in, let me think, I know, Zip Man, which was basically Gingerbread Man story, and I was running out of the oven. Yeah, I know. Thank you very much. And you can probably hear he squeaks a bit now.
He does,
because he's getting a bit old.
Oh, well.
But this was made by the same person who made the Zippies and Georges on the and I asked actually. I feel quite honoured that I've still got him because basically. I suggested in the read-through, that when we did these programmes, we read through on a Friday and recorded on a Wednesday and Thursday. Anyway, at the read-through, I said, look, it'd be lovely to have a little Zippy if he's Rumpelstiltskin running through. And I know that Jane, the musician who was on the programme, she was going to find him in the woods or something.
Oh, yes.
And it would be lovely to see a little one. And he was, and Roy did the voice for him at that time.
Yeah.
And he did a little squeaky sort of Zippy voice, which was quite sweet for him. So he had a little costume on at that stage.
And a rare example of seeing the puppet's legs.
Indeed.
Yes.
And people sometimes, I know that's a great question because some people say, why don't we see Zippy's legs? And I always do a Zippy. I always say, I choose not to show them. And that's my regular answer, which is quite funny. But isn't it lovely? And also he's quite podgy, isn't he, really?
Yes, he is.
Which is
rather.
quite sweet. So he used to sort of run around. And do his thing.
Which brings me actually onto a picture that I posted on Twitter many weeks ago.
Oh, yes.
Where I first came across you, Ronnie, because every year I go on holiday with a lot of friends, and on a Saturday night we have a bit of a fancy dress theme. And this year it was children's television.
Oh.
So we had a chance to make our own costumes, so I apologise for this. But let's see.
Well, that's not bad at all.
You don't think it's... I think it's quite frightening, isn't it?
It's frightening.
But I tell you, what I was very keen to get was the one-arm thing.
Brilliant. Which
to me,
you've definitely got there, haven't you? No, so tell me, how did you make him?
Well, it's a papier-mâché head made, I think I had 2 plastic bowls which I covered in papier-mâché.
Yeah, got you.
And printed out some eyes and stuck a zip on it.
So you couldn't see it very much?
I couldn't see very much at all, no.
I mean, literally through that,
That's
maybe
right,
through the gap in the mouth.
Yes.
But you've got the zip on and all that, the lovely blue eyes and everything. And the rubber glove for that. And you've got the sort of 3 fingers.
Yeah, I was trying for that.
You
That's
did very
right.
well. No, I'll give you definitely... 9 out of 10.
Well, I'm very happy
Is
with
that.
All right? It's amazing. That's literally made my day. Yeah.
No,
so that was when I sort of first came across you. Well, of course, I say first came across you. I've been watching you my whole life. But that was when I was able really to put a name and then eventually a face to the character.
Right.
And lots of other people have very similar feelings. Now, we do have some questions from our wonderful viewers and listeners about you and your career and your various characters. Would you mind diving in?
Oh, right.
And let's take 3 or 4 out of there.
I think have I taken 3
There's
or 4?
a couple there, I think.
1, 2. Oh yes, 2. Right, and I'll do another one. Oops.
That's it. Yeah,
there we
perfect. And let's see what they have to say.
Right. Well, Kenneth, is it Wick Kendon?
Oh yes.
And he has said, What one thing can you say has changed the most from early in your career to now?
Ooh.
Wow. One thing. Well, I suppose I'd have to say sort of Zippy changed my whole career in a sense that once I worked him for all those years, I mean, I became sort of, well, resident puppeteer at Thames Television, which made me I was able to do other stuff. So I worked with Tommy Cooper on a funny skit that he did, which was wonderful, this magic ball.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know how I kept myself a straight face doing it. He was just a wonderful guy. Did a tiny bit on Morecambe and Wise as well. Because all these programs at the time I was there were the big entertainment programs that were going
millions
on.
upon millions of people watching every week.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so that was very exciting. And then, of course, from then on, the Jim Henson came into my life, which was basically auditioning for Labyrinth because they wanted extra puppeteers, additional puppeteers, I think they say. And so I did that and got onto that. And then from there, I went on to Muppet Christmas Carol, Muppet Treasure Island, Little Shop of Horrors. And so it goes on. So I was very lucky.
You must have noticed over all that time is the change from sort of practical puppetry to, computer effects and so on, and even the two of them then working together.
Yeah.
Have you had much experience with that?
Yes. I started off, fun enough, I think it was, I'm trying to think the first time I used radio-controlled stuff, because that was like the beginnings of puppetry being controlled by, I don't know what you call
almost
it.
animatronics, I suppose.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Sort of animatronic stuff. And that was quite interesting. But then I did work on stuff which had a mixture of, computer-generated stuff and live action. What I find, which is quite interesting, in fact, one of the programs I did do, or wasn't a program, it's commercial, and it was with Brains from
Which we'll
Thunderbirds.
see next week. Yes, that's
right.
right.
Will you? Oh,
Yeah,
lovely.
yes,
well,
indeed.
a lot of that was computer-generated.
Yes, right.
And then we had the real puppet.
Yes.
We had a version of Brains.
And do you mind that? Do you feel it's treading on your toes a bit, or can it complement? Do you think?
I thought it wasn't. That particular commercial was quite good. It worked quite well. I mean, I can tell you if we see it next week.
Yeah.
I can tell you when the real puppet went and
Yes.
the computer-generated one came
Yeah.
in. The only thing I remember from that was that the puppet Brains, he was doing a dance with a broom and all sorts of stuff.
Yeah.
And he fell on the ground, which is fine. That bit was fine. But getting up, there wasn't that effort to get up. And he went,
Yes, I see.
and I thought, oh, that's a shame. And there's something, obviously, they couldn't at the time. They may be able to do it nowadays.
Yes.
But didn't have that effort. And with a
Yes.
puppet, I always like to, when I'm teaching, I would say, show the effort as well.
That's
'Cause
interesting.
That's the sort of thing that people are fascinated with.
Yeah.
So, but
right.
yes, that was, I hope I've answered your question.
Yeah,
Keith.
sure.
Shall I do another one?
Yes, go on. Let's hear
Okay,
who
we've
else we've
got
heard
Jonathan Bell. What was it like working with Michael Caine on Muppet Christmas Carol? How nice. Fabulous is the word.
Yeah.
I was an additional puppeteer. I did lots of puppets looking out of the windows when they had the street scenes with Michael and Kermit, and were walking down the sort of snowy streets. And I did the one scene I do remember, the time that we did have a bit more connection with Michael as puppeteers, was the final scene, or one of the final scenes, when he visited the Cratchit family, and he turned over a new leaf and he brought them a turkey for their Christmas dinner, and it was placed on this tape, and the camera pulled out and revealed a lot of there was the Cratchit family, but also friends that were all invited, and I was two puppets at the sort of table there, just looking and reacting.
Yeah.
And obviously there was lots of takes and different angles and stuff taken just for that one little bit. And Michael turned around and said, do you know, and we were in a pit underneath. I mean, you'd never know that when you watch the film.
Yeah.
And he was on a sort of rostrum, with a table and everything.
Right.
And he went sitting there at the head of the table, and he looked down at us like this and said, hey, you guys, it's amazing. I never look at you when you're doing the puppets. It's always about the puppets. You're fab. And we kept saying, well, you're not bad yourself, Mr. K. And all this. I mean, he was so nice, down to earth. And that was the only time that I had a chance to sort of chat to him in a way. Because, again, when you're an additional puppeteer, there's a load of us. I mean, there was probably 20 or something, maybe more. And we were sort of always asked to do, those sort of scenes, the group scenes, really.
But what's so key about moments like that, and the Muppets in general, actually, is that the actors are taking this world absolutely seriously. Yeah. That's what's so sweet about.
I love it.
Films.
And I know there's some actors that perhaps are not very keen. Actually, it's interesting when you're talking of that. I mean, the Muppet Show was one of those shows where they had brilliant stars on every week at the ATV or whatever, and. This is me being in my critical eye, think that actor's not really terribly, it's a little bit like, I want to be, this puppet is upstaging me, sort of thing. And although they were, within the script and everything. Yeah. But I always feel but there are some who completely, as you say, just, it's a puppet. Yeah, and it's not a puppet, it's a character.
That's right.
I mean, the famous Parkinson interview with Miss Piggy.
Right.
I mean, I adored that when that came out.
Absolutely.
And because he was totally, there was no question that was Miss Piggy was a real person.
And in a sense, it's their reaction that gives the puppets life, isn't
absolutely.
it? We go through them. Yeah, it's really interesting.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And one more, I think.
Yes,
right?
one more. Sorry, we've done Jonathan.
That's all right.
Let's see who this is. Matthew Mayhew. More recent shows that use puppetry tend to use more rod-controlled puppets rather than string-controlled that we were used to in Super Marionation shows.
Yeah.
Are there any reasons for this, and which do you prefer? Well, actually, I love working both because I was brought up working marionettes, so I loved
I'm going to stop you there. So tell us the difference. Once and for all, what's the difference between a marionette and a puppet?
Right, okay. A marionette is the posh word for a string puppet. A puppet worked with strings, usually from above, and it has a controller and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
That's the difference.
Yeah.
And I love when I'm doing a marionette, and sadly I didn't bring one here today, but to work one, people are, even to this day, even if they've seen loads of computer-generated stuff and all clever technicalities and stuff, they are engrossed because there's a distance between me and the puppet, and I'm doing very little really. I'm there, they know I'm there, and I'm working the legs and I'm doing the arm, and the puppet's just moving. Very usually quite. Not big sort of wobbly movements, but quite sophisticated movement, and they just what's that thing is alive? And I just see it all the time.
Yes.
People just get drawn into this thing. So marionettes are very special.
Yeah.
I think it's quite, as Gerry and everybody here would know, that filming marionettes isn't the easiest thing in the world.
Yeah.
They can look absolutely dead or they can be wonderfully alive.
Yeah.
And there is an art to that. But I think it takes ages to learn how to work a string puppet.
Sure.
It's the most technical of all the puppets.
But a bit of a showstopper, I know, but Christine Glanville, one of Gerry's operators, would often arrive at conventions with brains or a Tracy brother, and as you say, everyone's attention would drop to the marionette and not to Christine.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
And the same thing, I mean, I'd seen Mary Turner as another friend, and she's worked all these amazing things. And you think, I mean, she's actually quite a quiet, reserved sort of person anyway, and it's all sort of there. And you wouldn't immediately want to look at her, but it's the power of that puppet, as I call it, taking your total attention, which is really exciting.
And rod puppets then?
Well, rod puppets, I think because I've said that string puppets take a while to learn, and I think it all comes down to finance as well nowadays. The fact is that a rod puppet perhaps is slightly easier to learn and quicker to learn if you want to use it for a show or something like that. And so people, and it's fixed to your hand. It's part of your hand. I mean, just demonstrate. This is what I would call a glove rod puppet, the beaver, which I've shown you. But he's got his rods down here.
I see.
And it's all about sort of working those, sort of thing. And you can, you do sort of wide movements, and you close your hands and you do.
Sweet.
It's all it's all there. I mean, it's funny doing it like this. Stop doing. I don't like your glasses. Stop it. I'm going to put him off because he's very rude.
Yeah, exactly.
But anyway, rod. I love them both. It's not really which one I prefer. If I'm asked to use a rod puppet, I'll use a rod puppet.
Yeah.
If I'm asked to do a marionette, in a sequence, I will. I mean, classic example just recently was Dark Crystal Age of Resistance, which I had some, time on that, and I had a lovely time because they wanted a marionette sequence in it, in the Podlings, if those people who know about that show. And so I had a Podling reconstructed as a marionette, and I did a piece, and I remember the director, who was wonderful, Louis, a French guy, and he was actually did Steadicam as well as directing. Oh my goodness, it was. And he filmed my sequence, doing, and I was just working this puppet up on this rather rickety sort of, well, it wasn't boxes, it was a little bit more safer than that, but I was up quite high doing this. And some people, the production said, look, we'll do that with CGI.
Right.
It's not a problem. And he went, no. Yeah. We do this, everything we do in this show is going to be puppetry. And
wonderful.
Which was really lovely.
Yeah.
And they loved it. I mean, he loved it. And lots of people, afterwards commented on, and it's only a few seconds sequence, but it was there. And Jim used it too in his original Dark Crystal film. He had a sequence, which I think he was sort of replicating a little bit from the original film, where a Podling marionette did a little bit. So
sweet.
No, it's good.
Lovely,
it's
lovely.
Good.
Now, just before we play our final game then.
Right.
Just a quick clip that you've alluded to already, the Children in Need special 2022, I think, so a couple of years ago. That's right.
Yeah.
And now I've slowed down the footage. Well, here's some music, but I've slowed down the footage for a couple of Anderson references.
Okay,
so,
lovely.
We should be able to see that
Oh,
here.
great. Oh, yes. Zippy.
There's Zippy.
There he is. Oh, lovely Zelda. Here we go. Yes, I think I was Captain Blue. I really can't. Oh, yes, and I was definitely. Oh, here we go. Look at that. Just the paw acting.
That's right. There we go. What I think is so sweet is that you have one paw from each of the characters as well. So,
absolutely.
So a nice thing to have done. Quite a busy day by the looks of it then for you.
Oh, it was amazing.
Or 2 or 3.
Yeah, I can't remember. I think it was just a day.
Right. Yeah.
We got there early, of course, and we were. And I was, in fact, on that. Children in Need bit, what did I do? Also did Muffin the Mule a bit as well, which is like the original string puppetry.
That caused much excitement on our podcast listeners' Facebook group when that was first shown. People saying, did you see Zelda on guitar? And did you see the Tracy boys at the piano? So
nice.
It did not go unnoticed, as you might imagine.
Oh, well, that's good. Thank you, fans.
Now, just before we say goodbye, time for a very quick game which we call Quickfire 5.
Right.
I'm going to give you 5 either-or questions.
Right.
Okay, and it's up to you to pick your answer. Are you ready for these?
Yep.
Okay. So, glove puppet Zelda or string puppet Captain Scarlet?
I think glove puppet Zelda, believe it or not.
Okay.
Yes, I know. Interesting,
right.
isn't it?
You need a pet, but do you choose Rainbow Zippy or Stingray's Oink the Seal?
Oh, difficult one, but I'd have to choose Zippy,
Would you?
I? Yeah. I mean, he'll kill me if I didn't choose Zippy.
Would you rather have Bungle singing the theme to Thunderbirds or Sooty singing anything at all?
I'd rather have Sooty, I'm afraid.
Oh, sweet.
He doesn't speak, but he'll whisper it very quietly in somebody's ear.
Christmas on Tracy Island or in the Victorian London from the Muppets Christmas Carol?
Oh, that is a really difficult. I'd like to do both, but I'm going to go for, I think I will go for Muppet Christmas Carol. I'm sorry. I love Tracy Island.
Fine. And finally, the spectrum agents for Captain Scarlet are all named after colours. So choose your colour from the Dulux colour range. Are you Captain Autumn Mist or Lieutenant Cherry Blush?
I think I'm Captain. It would be Captain.
Very good. That's your Quick Fire 5. We asked you to name as many Gerry Anderson series as you could from those very quick clips. And you were very quick on the earlier stuff, I seem to remember.
Yes, that's my childhood.
Exactly.
You see, the earlier stuff.
So perhaps it's time to have a look at your favourite Gerry Anderson character. Let's have a look at this.
Hey, Rocky. Have a bite of this before I take it to my horse.
Oh, I say, lovely Kenneth Connor.
Yeah. How awfully decent.
Oh, absolutely. Oh, that's sweet, you see. I love that character. I don't know why.
You ready, fellas? Sure. Yep.
Great.
Rocky, what's wrong? Oh, that band about cheese. He gave me some hay to eat. He did, huh? It must have been doped. I'll show that scoundrel.
Oh,
Good old
great.
Rocky.
Yes. To get over the horse's leg
Yes.
movement, you know, all that ground row in front.
That's right.
But it makes
Yes.
it's great. It's
Clever,
really
isn't it?
good. And it's the finish. Of course he's won.
Yes.
That was nice, that little
There
jump
we
up.
go. There, so you chose Rocky the Horse from
Yes,
Four Feather
I
Falls.
did. I know, isn't it funny? I know people think, my goodness, you've got such a choice, and I did.
Yeah.
But I thought, now let's go back to my childhood. Let's
Yeah.
remember what I thought was fun.
Yeah.
And I loved him, and I loved the voice of
Kenneth Connor, as you
Kenneth Connor,
mentioned.
exactly.
That's right.
And I was a great fan as a kid of all the Carry On films.
Oh,
as well.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
there was a link there too. But I thought they were great, and I mean. What's his Parsons?
Yes, Nicholas Parsons as Tex
who
Tucker.
did
Yeah.
wonderful. I mean,
Yeah.
and his wife then did all the granny, didn't she?
That's
And
it.
All that. Denise.
And later Zelda in
yes,
Turtles.
indeed, she did.
Yeah,
yes.
that's right. And it's interesting you mentioned there the sort of the cheat in a way. So they didn't have to see the horse's hooves and legs,
Yeah.
so we had the foreground moving very
Yeah,
quickly.
yeah.
But actually, the scale, imagine trying to mount a horse race with puppets is extraordinary. This is early days for Gerry. You know,
absolutely.
It's still 1950s. And,
Yeah.
so actually it shows that you can do pretty much anything, can't you?
You can.
That's
you
the
can.
joy of
I
it.
mean, it does take time,
Yeah.
but it's doable.
Yeah, that's right. And what is it particularly with puppets and animals? There's something about puppet animals specifically that really catches the imagination.
Oh, I don't know. I think we all liked. I put it down to sort of cuddly toys we had as a kid.
Yeah.
And we all had a teddy bear, or we had an animal that we loved and we spoke to as a kid. It was a private little conversation.
Yes, that's right.
And I think the puppets, in a way, are live, if you like, versions of those sort of characters that one talked to as a kid. I mean, that's one of the sort of, I suppose, the thoughts I had about it.
Yeah.
I just know that let me put on one character.
Here
Come
we
on,
go.
it's easier. Now, this is, you'll know who he is, but he's quite an old version of him now. This is Sweet
Hello,
from Sooty and
Sweet.
Sweet.
Oh.
You're going to speak. Pardon? Oh, you don't whisper normally. Oh, have I got to put the reed in my mouth? Oh, I've got to put the reed in my mouth. Right. Well, that makes the squeaky noise, everybody.
Ah.
Don't do that. That's naughty. Anyway, Sweet, you're very kind. Thank you for doing your little voice for us. And why are you scratching your ear like that for? You've got fleas? No, you haven't. Anyway, this was, you see, again, it's like my reaction to him.
Yeah.
Everybody's reaction. He's cuddly. He's lovely.
And you've got the added bonus that we all know Sweep. I know Sweep.
Exactly.
It's like I'm being, I have an old friend sitting across the table with me.
Yeah. No, he's lovely. And I was so lucky. I'd been doing Rainbow for a while, and Matthew Corbett was one of the singers originally. He wasn't there as a puppeteer or anything like that. He was a singer. He wanted to be an actor when he'd been to Central School and all the rest of it.
Yeah.
And sadly, Harry had a rather serious heart attack. And it meant that Matthew sort of stepped in. This was at the Christmas Mayfair Theatre, pantomime, whatever they did at Christmas. And so Matthew took over that. And then, of course, the series Sooty Show, which of course has been on and still on, was being recorded in the summer. And they thought, I don't think we can sort of have Harry presenting it totally because we're a bit worried about his condition. He was getting better by then, but he was still, a bit frailer.
Yeah.
And so they said, look, we'll make Matthew presenter. And if that's all right, and then Matthew thought, that's quite a good idea. But if I do it, I want to take over the whole Sooty thing, which is fair enough. I can understand that.
Make it his own.
So they did, that's right.
Yeah.
So he did make it his own show. And then during the Rainbow, I can't remember what series it was. I think it was 70s, late 70s, something like that.
Yeah.
And he said, Ronnie, how about you working Sweep? Well, I've grown up with Sweep and Sooty and Harry and all that on television, so I wouldn't say no to that. And that was during the summer break, because Rainbow always had a summer break. And being a Thames programme by then, Sooty, we went off 2 weeks location filming, which was such fun.
Yes, I can imagine.
Swimming in a pool. I was like there, and the cameraman was on a bit, the camera was on a polymer polystyrene thing so it could float, and they were swimming. It was lovely. Rock climbing, all sorts of.
And do you feel part of that sort of that lineage? You mentioned the Corbetts there.
Yeah,
and,
I do. It was a pleasure to meet Harry and his wife Marjorie, whose nickname is Tobes, like Toby Jug. Quite a large lady. Sorry about that. Anyway, gorgeous, lovely, lovely couple. They lived down in Dorset and Child Oakford, and they had a studio built. Harry was an amazing. he was so tidy and kept everything in order, and he had all his old films and old stuff and scripts and stuff. He was great, and he had his grand piano, because he wanted to originally be not so much a puppeteer, but a pianist.
Right.
He'd like to be a concert pianist.
Right.
But sadly, he had rather bad ears. He went deaf very early, and he had operations, but it never was terribly right, and so he ended up doing
luckily
magic.
for us in a way.
Absolutely lucky for us.
Extraordinary.
It was really lovely. I better show you Sooty, hadn't I? I think?
Come on then,
because
one without the other.
Exactly. Now these are as I say, figures that Harry gave me after one of the series I did. So there's Sooty, and he has got. You've got your magic wand.
Of course.
Shall I get it? There it is. Izzy Wizzy, let's get busy. Oh, thank you very much. Lovely. Glad you didn't bring a water pistol. No, it's not down there. No. Anyway, there he is. So there's Sooty. And so yes,
How
all right,
wonderful.
get your magic
Now, it's
wand.
quite a responsibility, isn't it, handling these well-known characters? You've got to be careful, I guess, with
absolutely
what they do.
And, again, Harry gave me lessons on how to do the reed, because I thought it was like the ones you buy in the shop. You press a little thing here or something, or you have a... Oh, no, you have to have a reed. This is one I've actually constructed myself. The original reed that I had sort of all went a bit... As they do, they don't last forever.
Right.
And so this is like a wooden sort of trumpety thing.
Yeah.
Mr. Corbett, and it sort of is a good imitation of the original reeds. I put elastic. It's very funny. I've just remembering doing sweep on the set and the television. We did things like painting and decorating, and all the puppeteers were covered in mess underneath, as you do,
of course.
And I had a reed in my mouth, and I was all mic'd up, and the paint went into the reed, and it stopped, and then it fell out. It came out of my mouth, and I can't do anything. And they used to say, when in doubt, if anything goes wrong, because we had a live audience, we had kids there.
Right.
When in doubt, they'll always go to sweep.
Right.
And you just have to improvise something.
I see.
So that was...
Safe pair of hands.
Yes,
Sweep.
absolutely.
Yeah, always.
Yes.
Yeah.
So that was that.
So let's go back then. You mentioned the Angel Puppet Theatre in Islington last time. So what sort of work did you do there, and how long were you with them?
Wow. Basically, I was there from 6... I'm just shutting my eyes to try and remember. I think I started there in 64, and I left eventually about 1969, 70.
Okay.
But I stayed there, and we did wonderful European tours with the Marionettes. We did shows, obviously, at the theatre.
Yeah.
I'd probably worked on nearly every show during that period that they had made and
Building
constructed.
as well? Or
Not
so
really
much?
building. I'm not a puppet maker.
Yeah.
They were so brilliant in the workshop.
I see.
I used to sort of come and go, oh dear. And then John Wright was quite funny, because I was a bit clumsy, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And he'd say, oh, turn off the lathe, turn off the thing. Oh, we don't want Ronnie near that. Anyways, I said, you're all right up on the bridge or down in the pit doing the glove puppets or something, but don't. Anyway, I did do sanding. I was a very good sander of carved, things. So I used to do that quite a lot. But no, we did all sorts of puppets as well. Because being a theatre, he had a pit for glove puppets and rod puppets. We used marionettes and rod puppets and shadow puppets and every kind of puppet you can think of. And we performed, as I say, all over Europe.
Quite the apprenticeship, really.
Yeah, it was fantastic. It was wonderful. And, of course, puppeteers came to the theatre to see shows once they heard that there was a building for puppets. And the audience now is, it was generations have gone now. It's been around for a long time.
But obviously at that point then, perhaps you were starting to realise that you could make a career in this profession.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I thought, I found my niche.
Yeah.
That is it. That's what I'm going to do.
Yeah.
And we had done little bits of telly. We did some outside broadcasts where the telly would come to the theatre, and I did a Pathé pictorial or something. I remember again very early, and again I think it's on YouTube somewhere, where I walk up I'm putting up a poster or something outside the theatre, and then I'm giving programs out. This is 15-year-old boy giving out, because I started there at 15.
Wow,
you see.
yeah,
So I mean, I
gosh.
didn't stay on to school.
So I mean, it has been a lifetime's
Yeah,
work, hasn't it?
yeah.
That's extraordinary.
60 years this year, somebody
Right.
told me. I
Yeah.
thought, no, it can't be.
That can't be right.
Can't be
No, no,
right.
no, no.
I'm only 25 and a half.
Of course you are. and which is your favourite medium? I mean, you've done TV, film, and theatre work.
Oh my goodness, I
Where would
love
you-
doing. It's really boring, but I love it when I'm filming. I love doing the filming stuff because
Right.
there's a whole technical side to that which I love.
Yeah.
I love cameras and
Yeah.
all the technicality of
Yeah.
all that. And if the director's really responsive, it's fantastic. You really, you can put your ideas in. They put their ideas in, and they ask you. There's a sort of a really nice sort of feeling from the director and the puppeteer, and if you've got that right, then things just happen magically.
And you don't mind the lack of a live audience in that
No,
situation?
not really.
then?
I mean, it's the similar thing happened in television. People say,
Yeah.
"Oh, but because you're so used to doing it to a live and that
Yeah.
lovely thing of getting the response." Well, actually, the cameraman used to laugh.
Sure.
And all the
Yeah.
techies used to love coming to watch Rainbow because we were
Yes.
a bit naughty,
Yes.
and some of the camera has as one does. Okay,
Yeah.
after a while,
Yeah.
and we had such fun
Yeah.
doing stuff. I mean,
Amazing.
people talk about the naughty Rainbow, which is everyone watches.
Yeah.
But it was just, I don't know. I do love live stuff.
Yeah.
I'm really enjoying. I mean, this is lovely talking
Yes.
to you.
Yes.
See?
Yes,
Showing
isn't it?
puppets off.
Yes.
I'm showing off my.
That's
but
right.
It is just a fun thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't really say that I love one more than the other.
Yeah.
I think I really enjoy doing them all.
Yeah, fair enough. Now, we
Oh.
have some more
Oh,
viewers and listeners'
wow.
questions for you. I think there's quite a big handful there, so if you want to take them all out,
Take
let's see
them
if we
all
can
out and see what happens.
Yeah,
Oh,
tackle them
there's-
all.
There's quite a lot there.
There we are.
Let's have a look. We've got David Hollis. If you had a chance to put one of your puppets in an Anderson show, who would it be and which show? Gosh. Bonus points for an idea within that show. Maybe a scene that you would like to have seen them play.
Right,
Wow.
okay. So which of your myriad
Well,
of characters? Yes.
I haven't got him here,
Yeah.
sadly, but I have a dodo puppet who's rather posh. And I think he would probably fit into Thunderbirds, okay. Now, what scene? Probably he'd be actually, he might be in the sort of, what do you call it, the control centre,
Yes.
and he'd be one of the characters in there.
Yes.
Dodo is frightfully like that. And he talks, and he knows an awful lot. I've been around for over 100 years, so I mean that's the sort of Dodo
Lovely,
character. So
lovely.
I think I'd do that. Probably Thunders, but I mean he'd probably be quite nice in Supercar, even some of the
Yes.
early ones.
Sure,
So
that's right.
And he is literally as you probably people know, he's the dodo bird with the big beak and everything.
Yeah.
I mean, one could he has had a costume on before now, but normally he's just with a sort of feather duster tail and his lovely big beak. But I think that would be the answer to that one, David. I hope
Great.
that's all
Yes.
right.
Lovely.
Steve Bushell, did you get to meet Jim Henson when you worked with his Muppets? Also, does it still make your arms ache, or do you get used to waving your arms in the air? Well,
That's a fair question, isn't it?
it is a
Yes.
very good question.
Yes.
Do you know, I teach puppetry, particularly glove puppets and rod puppets, because that seems to be the puppetry that people like to do more now. As I said, string puppets take a bit longer.
Yeah.
Anyway, and one of the first things I ask, I say, well, put your hands up in the air, and how long can you? And I'm sort of chatting away, and I have my arm up, and people people are gradually going, and they go down and say, well, I think the answer to one of those questions is it does make your arm ache if you have to keep it up there for a long time, but you develop somewhere. There's the muscles after a few years. That's it. It's there. And another thing, I just did a glove puppet pantomime in Norwich Puppet Theatre. They've got one there. I'm now a patron there as well.
Lovely.
I'm showing off a bit.
No, that's very
But
good.
Anyway,
You carry on.
And I remember doing it. There was one scene, and I was doing this lovely. I think it was a fairy godmother or something. And I put my other hand there just to support it a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
If it's long, but there's ways round it.
Yes,
Now,
yes.
The other part of the question was, did you get to meet? Yes, I did get to meet Jim Henson.
He was a genius, wasn't he?
Oh, total genius,
Yeah.
and a lovely man.
Yeah.
Very quiet, very unassuming.
Yeah.
Never shouted at anybody. Never saw him shout or get roused up or anything. He was very honest. I remember when we started on Labyrinth, and we were all sort of lined up as additional puppeteers on the day of the shooting of the wonderful David Bowie song, it was The Babe, and throwing the baby up in the air.
Yes.
And he said, now look, everybody, just to let you know, this is going to take a few days to get this all shot, but your puppets will be right in the background. You are background puppeteers. I don't think you'll get a chance to get a close-up, because if we do, we'll get one of our American puppeteers to do it, because, they're used to it more. And I thought that was kind of it. I didn't mind the fact that I was on this huge set.
Yeah, okay.
And
but he
filmed.
took the time to explain.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
and
great.
I thought that was lovely.
Yeah.
But another lovely moment was there was a wonderful lady, sadly died last year, a lady called Penny Francis, and she was very much involved in sort of puppetry community. And she had every year a wonderful Christmas party. She lived in Wimbledon, and it was a lovely big house. Anyway, the doorbell rang. I was at the Christmas party. I was invited, and having known her for a long time. And the doorbell went, and I opened the door, and there was Jim and Cheryl, his daughter, and I sort of, and he went, oh, hi, I'm just coming. And he was so sweet. And I thought, hi.
Just a minute.
Excuse me. Yes, do come in, Jim. But, I mean, he was lovely.
Yeah.
And we did have parties at his house in Hampstead. He invited us around. So,
amazing.
Lovely, a genius and a very lovely, kind Superman. And I've been very lucky to have met all the family.
Yeah.
And they're all great. They're all different.
Yeah.
They're all amazing. They all do fabulous things. Cheryl, I know quite well. I mean, met her a few times.
Yeah.
She comes over here quite a lot. Brian, of course, is busy directing all sorts of wonderful things.
That's right. So let's have another question then. See who we've got next.
Okay, Richard. Oh, it's a Richard.
Oh, yes.
Richard
Well, give us a
Goodborn.
bell. Yes.
A very good name. Which Anderson show would you have loved to puppeteer in? Oh, gosh, there's so many.
Yeah.
I love Sting. Can I say a few?
Yes, go on. I think you can.
mean, early days, I'd love Four Feather Falls.
Yeah.
I was a kid watching that. I love Stingray. I love Fireball XL5 because I met John Blundell, and I'd love to work one of those puppets.
Yeah.
And then, of course, I have to say Thunderbirds and stuff. But I don't know. It'd be quite interesting to do some of the later stuff, just to see. I mean, I did work at Captain Scarlet and a Captain Blue, and I did a commercial with Captain Scarlet. I can't remember what it was, and I found those quite difficult puppets, to be honest, to work, because they're very constructed very differently. But what was interesting, I've learned since, that there was a whole lot of sort of puppeteering that was done like on the ground to hold the feet down, and so that they could do a little bit more. And the size of the heads and things were more naturalistic and all the rest of it. But so it would be quite interesting to work.
I mean, that leads on to another question of mine, really, which is how close, or did you ever come close to working with Gerry on any of his shows? I mean, obviously you were too young with the early days. Were you still too young by the time we got to the likes of Captain Scarlet and Joe?
No, I would have done. I think I was so engrossed at the Little Angel.
Yeah.
I think I worked with a lot of other companies after the Little Angel. I worked with John Blundell himself, who set up a puppet company in the Midlands Arts Centre. This was 69 to 70.
Yeah.
And I did a year there working with, because his designs of puppets, he very influenced in Eastern European puppetry.
Yeah.
And that was fascinating to work. And that was all live shows. And that was very exciting.
Yeah.
But
did you ever meet Gerry at all?
No, I didn't.
Yeah,
and I mean, it's a great pleasure to meet Jamie for the first time, and your good self, of course.
Very kind.
But no, it's I've always been fascinated. I've got a collection. I mean, I've got the books that Stephen Rivera has written, and I've got and I've got DVDs.
Of course you have. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So all the greats.
Yeah.
So I'm still fond of that.
Excellent.
More
Time for another one. Yeah.
Hyder. I hope I've got
Paul
it right.
Hyder from China, of all places.
Is he from China?
Yes, there you go.
Right. What's your preferred puppet type? Marionettes, hand puppets, rod puppets, or another? Well, I've sort of answered that earlier, but I think I love marionettes because that was the first puppet that I worked, the string puppets. But I love working a rod puppet or a glove puppet.
Yeah.
I think it's all about character for me. And so if they're a difference, if it's a shadow puppet, it's got a great character. I love it.
I see.
I just fall in love with the character and the way they're operated. It doesn't really put me off. I love working.
Other puppeteers have favourites though?
Yeah,
do you know
I think there are. People
Yeah.
do have, their favourites. A lot of puppeteers today, newer ones, don't really touch marionettes because it's too difficult for them to work,
Right.
which gives me a bit more of an opportunity, of course. Sorry.
Yes.
But I think a lot of them probably do what we call the Muppet style, like the beaver puppet, and what we call tabletop, which puppets are worked on a tabletop. Usually the puppeteer is visible behind, and that's usually 1 or 2 or 3 puppeteers working the one figure to give an extra bit of movement. But and I'm happy to do that too.
There's a sort of a rebirth in recent years, certainly in terms of theatre, in having large-scale puppets. I'm talking things like The Lion King in town and Warhorse, famously.
Wonderful.
What do you think? Have you ever done anything to quite that scale?
Well, we did years ago, even before the wonderful big productions like you've just said, we did a production of The Soldier's Tale, which is a Stravinsky piece. It was originally a ballet, I think, but we did it with large-scale 7-foot puppets, and we did it at the Queen Elizabeth Hall.
Oh, wow.
That was probably 69, 68, that sort of time.
Yeah.
It was a while ago.
Yeah.
And it was the first time that we got, or the Little Angel Theatre got, amazing reviews from all the press. And during that time, it took years for the press to come along and sort of review a puppet show. I think they just thought, where's the angel?
Yeah, yeah.
Where's the other? They really, it was just wasn't sort of around, and taxi drivers didn't know, how to get there. But now, of course, it's so well known that they know. But that gave us a fantastic boost, I think, to the theatre, to John Wright anyway at the time. And there was a company of about 8 of us, maybe more.
Yeah.
I can't remember. And that was wonderful. We had Michael Flanders, the actor who was in a wheelchair for years and did Flanders and Swan. They were lovely musical act. Anyway, he did the narration. We had Daniel Barenboim conducting the English Chamber Orchestra.
Amazing.
Early days for him, but wonderful.
Yeah.
And we had, it was all live voice, obviously, because it was a live show. And that was something, we were all in black and put the puppets into lights from the side so that we disappeared. And that was quite something. But yes, absolutely, I was one of the moments I'll mention Warhorse because I've seen it about 3 times. And one of the moments I loved in that was when the little Joey horse suddenly appeared, and then it grew in front of your eyes, as it were.
Yes.
It was just pulled back, and another one was there ready.
Yes.
And the change of lighting. Marvellous moment.
And yet still a puppet. I mean, at its basic,
absolutely.
still
and
a puppet.
You saw
and he was riding
puppeteers.
on it,
yeah,
but
exactly.
still a puppet.
Absolutely. I mean, you had 2 guys inside, you had the guy on the head with the long rod, and yet you didn't look at them. The story was so moving anyway.
Yeah.
And the fact that you could get somebody to ride, they had to be very careful where they sat themselves on it. But it's fantastic. And Lion King I adored.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff.
Another couple, I think. Do we have left there, or one, or how are we doing?
Simpsons clips.
Oh yes, that's right. Yes, yeah.
What was it like to be the puppeteer of Sweep for a time?
Oh, there we go.
Well, how
about
lovely!
Sweep.
Thank you very much, Simpsons clips. It was lovely. I mean, he's gorgeous. I still occasionally do a little bit of Sweep when I'm doing my own sort of talks about Ronnie Le Drew puppeteer sort of thing, and I show these puppets and of course Sippy. But no, I love doing Sweep. Naughty character. Who doesn't like doing a naughty character or a silly character or one that gets sort of stuff thrown at him and he falls over, or he loves sausages. I mean, who doesn't? Even if they're vegan ones, he doesn't mind.
Lovely. Well, let's head back into the worlds of Anderson very briefly then before we say goodbye with a very quick clip of a commercial we've mentioned a couple of times over the last couple of weeks. This is for Drench.
Oh yes, Drench Water.
Water, that's right. Back in the what was it, 20 years ago maybe?
It must be about 20 years ago, I would think.
So a very brief clip of this.
Yeah.
Let's have a look.
Thank you.
There you go.
Oh wow,
Very,
memories.
very quick snippet there.
It is. Now, the most of it was the CGI.
At that point.
At that point. But then when he slid to the front, that was the real puppet. And we just did that,
Yes,
arms up in the
I
air.
see. I mean, it's worth looking for on YouTube because obviously your work will feature on and off throughout that CGI puppeteer.
Absolutely. And there are moments, where there's the puppet is... Well, in fact, when he's drinking the water, that was the real puppet.
Oh, yeah.
Very clever, the way they had a sort of... I think it was a rubber tube or something. So, but it looked as though the water was going into its mouth. And I think it went down a tube in there. We had, that took ages to get exactly right. And of course, you've got to have the logo,
of course,
showing.
That's right.
And
the pack shot.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, wonderful.
But,
well. It's been such a pleasure talking to you. What are you up to these days, Ronnie?
Well, I am about to, believe it or not, I'm about to go to Norwich on Sunday to do some school shows of the Christmas panto, Jack and the Beanstalk, which we did over Christmas. I've just had a phone call or a message today to say they'd like to do some reshoots of a film I did last year, which is, I think I can tell you the name of it. It won't. I thought it was going to be out in the summer. I don't know whether it will be if they're doing some retakes. But it's called A Quiet Place Part 1, and there were 2 films made previous to that, and this is the sort of prequel to the whole, and it's a sort of psychological thriller. It's all about strange creatures that come and if you make a noise,
that's right.
I've
seen it. Yes.
Oh, you've seen
I know
it.
that.
Lovely.
Yes,
wonderful,
amazing.
And literally, as I was coming here to talk to you, I got this message saying, "Would you be free in early February to do?" Amazing. A couple? I thought, oh yes, lovely.
So the work's still coming in busier than ever.
Yeah,
or just enough to keep you busy.
Just enough to keep me busy, but I'm also doing talks and teaching.
Great.
Podcasts. Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
But
great. And before we say goodbye, where can we find you online then for listeners and viewers?
You can find me on Facebook. Instagram. X, is it? Twitter.
Yes, right.
Where else can you find me? Oh, gosh.
Well, there's the website,
Google.
of course.
Oh, the website. Now, that's terribly old. It is quite full. I used to put every single thing I did, even if it was about 5 seconds, on there. Sadly, it's so old, I can't update it anymore.
Oh, yeah.
And it's got an address there that I no longer live in and things like that.
Yeah.
But I've kept it on there because I sort of have. And my son's very good at... website stuff, so I'm hoping he will adjust the whole thing for me because I'm hopeless. But anyway, there you are. You can find me on those places, or Google me. You'll find all sorts of stuff there.
Lovely. Well, it's been a personal treat, I have to say, to meet you today, and I really appreciate you coming all the way to Slough to join us.
I know,
on the Gerry
isn't it
Anderson podcast.
Iconic to come to Slough too.
That's
fabulous.
Thank you so much, Ronnie Le Drew.
Thank you.